I think coming from my personal experience and perspective, that self-care is extremely important for a survivor because it helps us heal, kind of helps bring us back to that place of peace and calm, and remembering that we are still human, we are still people, and we're bigger than our trauma. We're better than our trauma. Yeah, what a great question. So I feel like for me, self-care has kind of evolved in the way I define it, especially after becoming a survivor. For me, right now, self-care is the ability to care for myself in whatever capacity I'm in. So if I'm triggered, knowing how to care for myself. If I'm really sad, knowing how to care for myself and knowing the difference between the emotions. So self-care for me is knowing how to care for myself in whatever state that I'm in.
So for me, self care can kind of seem like an extension of self love, or it could seem like a synonym of it, depending on who the individual is. But essentially, it's just about making sure you do what you need to do to put your health, your well being, and your happiness as a priority, and just taking care of yourself and loving yourself.
So for me, self care would be to do the things uh, to make sure that I feel good and that my everyday is impacted by something that I did for myself. So being a mom, sometimes that looks like simply taking a bath for myself and just kind of, relaxing in the peace and quiet, or just maybe taking a walk, or something like that. Self-care really involves just doing something uh, every day just for me, for myself.
I think self care for me, like what everyone else said, is a combination of self love and taking time for the things that I find that I can enjoy. I think I'm still figuring out what self care means to me, because when I am in a good place, it equals working out and cooking myself my favorite meal. But when I'm in those tougher places, I'm still trying to figure out how to talk to myself in a way to care for myself.
I really struggle with the positive vibes only culture. I find personally that most of my healing and growth since being sexually assaulted has happened in being with those feelings that are uncomfortable and not so positive. And I feel like a positive vibes only culture makes us mask what we're really feeling, and we don't identify how to move forward in the healing process.
I get it, the whole positive vibes only thing, you don't want negativity around you, and that, that's a positive thing. However, I feel like it differs from dealing with any negative vibes or any negative issues that you're having that is affecting you from being positive, because some people, it's not that people want to be negative, they want to be positive, they want to be in a better space, but people go through different things and sometimes they don't know how to get out of that space. And so by emphasizing this positive vibes only, you're kind of excluding a lot of people who want to try to enjoy things and want to put themselves out there, but maybe they're like, oh, I don't want to kill the vibe, or I don't want to be that dark cloud, so I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go to this event, and I'm not going to go here or there. And then they never get out of that dark cloud that they're in because they don't put themselves out there. So
I just want to piggyback off of what Melissa said. Positive vibes only for me is it's just unrealistic, because sometimes we do go through things, and so just with going through those things, you have to learn that there's power in being vulnerable. And when you're able to be vulnerable, you're able to be honest with yourself on your emotions and there's power in that. So I couldn't agree with that culture, because it's not positive vibes only every single day, you know. So I think that that's very hard to ask, you know, for positive vibes only.
I think that the positive vibes only phrase is a good mindset mechanism for when you roll out of bed and you wake up and you want to kind of get your mind right. You say, all right, I'm choosing to see the light at the end. You know, I'm choosing to try and be positive today. Be a positive light in someone else's world today. Does it negate those feelings that we have all felt due to our assault? I think so, just because I'm not all rainbows and sunshine every day, all day. I think, though, that it does help me get to that point where I am more of a positive force towards other people. And so it helps me to get to a point now, in many years after my assault, a point now where I can choose to try and be positive today, no matter what I experienced or went through.
Yes, I feel like I have the self-care plan on top of self-care plan on top of self-care plan. But I'll speak primarily to the month that the assault happened. So for years, I would become a hermit that month. I would just want to hide under my blankets. I would become extremely depressed. I feel like for me, I carry a lot of my trauma in my body, which is common, and my body would do things and I wouldn't know how to articulate what was happening. And a few years ago, I decided that in the month of May, I'm turning the whole month of May into making a healthy choice for myself. So one year I trained to run a 5K, and the 5K ended up happening on the anniversary date of the assault. One year I did the whole 30. One year I made a promise to myself to cut out sugar, just kind of silly little things. But at the same time, for me, it meant I was making a healthy, positive choice that month. And every little healthy choice I made has helped me on my healing path. So that self-care plan in May is crucial for me.
For me, when I feel like I'm not doing my best, my self-care plan is to talk to myself. And it kind of seems a little simplistic, but I tend to get in my own head a lot. And when I am waking up and I'm feeling those moments of like depression or sadness because of what I went through, sometimes those emotions they kind of create a domino effect. So that emotion makes me think of another time when I also felt that, and then it just kind of adds on to it. And so one thing that helps me is like affirmations. And when I'm feeling in those moments where I'm just like, I try to talk to myself and say, you are smart, you're beautiful, you're kind, and this eventually will pass. And I try to just keep saying that to myself, and eventually I'll start to believe it, and I'll just get up and just do what I need to do. But definitely talking to myself and convincing myself that like I deserve to not feel like this is my number one self-care plan for me.
For me, my self-care plan is actually being able to speak about it. That's kind of where Speak Up Sis 2.0 came from, just me being in a place and in a relationship that I wasn't able to say anything about how I felt. So being able to speak about it, especially with my husband, that has been like a real important thing for me. And also journaling. Journaling is really essential, because when I'm not able to articulate how I feel very well, as long as I can get it down on a piece of paper, and just maybe even if I can write a few words on how I feel, eventually I'll be able to articulate how I feel in a way that somebody else can understand. So speaking about it and journaling has been essential for me.
I might take over Melissa's plan. I really like that, contributing to your well-being for the times where it seems to be the toughest. For me right now, a self-care plan is talking to someone else about the things going through my head. I still am not at a point where I can talk myself out of those darker places. And so it really helps to call up my sister and just have her, I don't want to say talk me off a ledge, but really talk me down to a point where it's okay to feel the way that I am feeling. Sometimes I feel like I'm crazy. I feel like I'm a mess. I feel all those things, and it's nice to talk to someone who knows where I've been and can still tell me that what I'm feeling is normal and I'm allowed to feel it, because right now I don't have the capability to tell myself that.
So for me, the self-care things that I use are, if I go to therapy, I always make sure that the therapist has some sort of body work that goes along with it. Trauma for me, I have learned, is best healed when there's some sort of somatic approach. I also make sure that they do EMDR. So I have my counselor on, not necessarily speed dial, but I can text her if I'm feeling triggered or something feels off and I need to get in, and she knows immediately what I need, and we'll EMDR, we'll Reiki, we'll do whatever we need in that moment to help me work through what I'm feeling. I'm also very big into the creative and expressive arts. For me, I find that, especially years after it happened, I didn't have the words to articulate how I was feeling. And so people, I'd sit down in counseling and try to talk, but I didn't have the words to say. There was nothing there. And then I felt like I was getting grilled and giving the wrong answers because I didn't know how to talk. And so what I started doing was visual journaling. And I'm not an artist. You sit down with your feelings, scribble it out, color it out in whatever funky colors, lines, whatever comes out. But it gives you another way to communicate with your body and process the trauma where you don't have to articulate the words. Something else, I'm really big into walking. I go out and I walk all the time for miles on end, and that really helps me as well.
So for me, some self-care options that I like to do is like some of the other ladies here. I like to be creative, so poetry has been a big release for me. Um, I feel like by writing poetry, it helps me to get out some of that energy or darkness that I'm feeling, so that I can give more space for like new energy and more positive feelings to come in. So definitely writing has been a release. I love drinking tea. It sounds like really simple, but just being able just to like sit and like silence for a little bit and just have like a cup of tea and just like kind of get my thoughts together help. Um, Also being with my animals. My dogs have been my biggest support, especially when I was going through my domestic violence at the time. And in moments when I just felt like my dogs always made me feel better. So like playing with them and like, just hanging out with them always makes me feel good.
So for me, self-care, like you all, being a creative, some that has looked different for me in different stages. So like that first year after, I used to go paint pottery a lot, and I have so much now. I want to throw it away so bad because it's just so many of them, but I keep it just as a reminder, just because I mean that was just a harsh time. So at that point it was pottery. Like now I make candles. That has been really soothing for me. I love to cook, so cooking is like a real, it's nurturing to me. It's peaceful for me. I also like to just maybe go do something with my twins. We can go to a trampoline park or things like that. So those are some of my self-care things. And also journaling, like I said, that has been a real thing for me, just to make sure that I've always journaled through it and after it. Journaling has been essential.
Like the other ladies, I found solace in journaling as well. I think that getting my thoughts down on paper and my emotions is not only something to help me in the meantime, but also to look back and see how far I've come and see how my feelings have progressed, if things matter, if things don't matter. I also, right after my assault, really went to fitness as kind of like my safe haven. Like I really wanted to work out and be in the best shape that I could be. And so that has been something that's stayed with me since my assault. So I really, really put fitness at the top of my list for self-care now during COVID, because I'm in a small apartment all day, every day working. I've tried to weave that fitness into seeing the sunrise every morning. And I've noticed that the sunrise is maybe my favorite part of the day. It's just really something is so peaceful about being one of the only people outside, being with just nature. And so I've been trying to get outside, I've been trying to run, I've been trying to journal. Also, just baking is my number one self-care activity. If I am in need of taking care of myself, I'll whip up a batch of cookies and treat myself for the night. And that is something that makes me feel 100% better.
I think coming from my personal experience and perspective, that self-care is extremely important for a survivor because it helps us heal, kind of helps bring us back to that place of peace and calm, and remembering that we are still human, we are still people, and we're bigger than our trauma. We're better than our trauma.
I think self-care is important to survivors because it helps empower them. It helps get their control back. I know for me, when I left my domestic violence relationship, I was very skeptical to do anything because I was always so used to like having to ask permission. So it's like even being able to like wake up and like listen to my nature sounds in the morning makes me feel empowered because I don't have to listen what like he wanted to listen to, or like now I can do this because I don't have him there anymore telling me that like I can't. So it just kind of gives you control back of your life.
Self-care is important for survivors because for however long or that you went through domestic violence, or you may have went through sexual abuse or things of that nature, I think that those things do strip you of your power, and those things do make you feel like you don't control your life or things like that. So you after it, you have like PTSD and anxiety and things like that. So you have to, in order to heal yourself, you have to do things that empower you. You have to do things that let you know that you are in control, whether that is, waking up and seeing the sunset like on time every morning, or going for a run, or journaling, and just doing things that make you feel good and make you feel maybe at peace, So I think that's why self-care is essential for survivors, because you do need to take care of yourself. It is important. That's the most important thing.
When I was assaulted, I did not think that I needed self-care. I was one of those survivors who felt like I was stronger than what I had endured. And so I tried to brush it to the wayside and just go along life as normal. And life as normal wasn't taking care of myself. And so self-care is important for survivors because it seems, at least in my situation, that it was only important to me too late. And someone really had to shake me and tell me that it was something that I needed to prioritize for my own sanity. And so I think that it's really important for survivors to understand that no matter what self-care means, they need to prioritize it because it helps us in, like Nayoché said, gaining control of ourselves and our life and what we want to become.
Yeah, so on the days where I feel like I can't get out of bed and can't really care for myself, I have this sweet little bunny, which might sound silly. I have an indoor bunny, and he helps bring life to me on those days. I also make sure which doesn't sound like the nicest, but I force myself to take a shower, and not just take a shower, but also wash my hair so that I have to brush and comb my hair afterwards. because it makes me feel like I'm starting, it almost triggers that I'm getting ready for the day function. Beyond that, for me, starting with some tea as well, to echo what they said, starting my morning with that helps kind of kick that into gear, that it's time to get moving and get going with the day, that I can't just stay in bed. Not that just staying in bed is a bad option either, but for me, on the days where I need to get out of bed, those are the things I do.
So for me, if I have a financial obligation that day, I'm kind of like Melissa also, I'll force myself to get out because just the notion of it kind of puts me, it's kind of like my mind will follow my body. So it's like, okay, I'm in the routine. I have to go do this. Then eventually I'll feel better. Maybe not right away, maybe not in that moment, but at the end of the day, I gotta do what I gotta do, and these bills gotta get paid. So I gotta gotta get up, you know. Um, but on those days where I don't have any obligation, sometimes I allow myself one day to just be in those feelings, because if I'm feeling that, that means that it must need to come out. And my biggest issue before was I would stifle everything and not talk about it. I'd be like, yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine. And then I wasn't fine. And it would just come out very explosive. So giving myself a day to just cry it out, feel depressed, be sad, be angry. And then when I wake up the next day, like, no, no more. I got to get up. I need to move on. I need to start the day better. And my dogs too. I think having animals also helps because I just can't stay in the house all day. I have to get up and I have to walk them. And then like when you see like their cute little faces, it's like, oh, okay, well, I feel a little better now, I guess, you know.
For me, on the tougher days where I feel like I can't get out of bed, sometimes it just depends on the time and my obligations. I have children, so that's not an option for me to just, stay in bed and just kind of just be with myself in those feelings. So if I mean, most of the time I do have to just get up and push myself, talk to myself, and let myself know, like, whatever it is, it does not last forever. These emotions, they do not last forever. You feel like this for right now in this moment, but it'll be okay. And I think that's the big thing that I have to tell myself, in those moments, it will be okay. Because for a long time, I didn't think it was going to be okay. So knowing that everything will be fine and it'll be okay, I just have to make sure I get up and just talk to myself, let myself know that everything will be fine. And then also, say if I do get, that break and my children aren't there, sometimes I just know that that's probably what I need. I need to give myself a break, and just kind of let myself just lay down and maybe just watch movies or sleep as long as I need to be able to wake up and feel fine, So I think that just kind of looks different as far as whatever my obligations are at that time. So it's just one or the other, either letting myself be able to have those emotions and deal with them, or, just telling myself it's going to be fine and let's get up and let's go attack the day.
When I wake up and I have that feeling like, oh crap, I don't want to do this kind of day, where I'm like, I'd rather just not do this, stay in bed. I have found recently that going outside and just being appreciative of my surroundings is really grounding for me. So, like the sunrise, thank you for this beautiful sunrise this morning. Thank you for these trees that are giving me air. Like those little thank yous for just everyday life, to just try and ground me a little bit, that no matter what's going on in my life, there's life happening and it will continue to happen, and my life will continue to happen, and it will be okay. Also, putting on my favorite jam and just dancing around my apartment is like, that flips me upside down. That is the best. And no matter what, I have been really into Send Me On My Way, which is from Matilda, which is like an amazing song. I put it on and it's just really happy. And so just bopping around for 4 minutes really changes the trajectory of my day.
So I am going to say a big fat false to that. Self-care is not selfish.
At first, I thought of it as, yeah, it is. And sometimes it's okay to be selfish. But then when I looked at the technical term of selfish, right, it means without regard for others. And sometimes you need self care for others and to be better. So, like Derricka said, she's the mom. So she needs to take that bath sometimes. She needs to make sure that she's good. Because if she's not good, then her kids can't be good. You know, it's essential also for you to make connections with other people. If you don't take care of yourself, how are you going to be able to let someone else in and set that tone so they know how they should be taking care of you too? So, no, it's not selfish.
I'm gonna say false. Self-care is not selfish. It's actually necessary so that you can be the best person you need to be every day. So I think that that's false.
I think that maybe others may see it as selfish, thinking that, oh, I need to do this for myself, so I can't say follow through with an obligation with you tonight. They might perceive that as selfish. It's 100% not selfish to do what you need to do for your mental health and for your body on that given time. And if someone cannot respect that and be 100% behind that, then they are not serving you in whatever relationship it is.
So my words of advice are that it's okay to start small. It's okay if self-care is shutting yourself in the bathroom for 2 minutes by yourself just to breathe. It's okay if it's going out for even 2 minutes outside and just breathing in the air there. I think being mindful of your breath is also self-care. So just know that you can start extremely small, but those small acts of self-care and kindness for yourself go a long way.
It's so important for survivors and even those who are not survivors to participate and practice self-care or self-love, because without that, it's so easy for you to go back into that kind of dark mind frame that you were before. And that's why I created my foundation, because like I said before, we can give you resources, we can give you donations, clothes, but if you don't have that instilled within yourself, you're more than likely to find yourself in those situations again. And another piece of advice is trial and error with self care. Try different things. We did 7 days of self love on our Instagram, and I learned about plant therapy. We learned about health and fitness, art, nature, music. There's so many different ways. So if you are trying to achieve self care and you feel like you haven't figured it out yet, don't give up yet. If that didn't work, then there's definitely something out there that will. Just keep an open mind and just stay positive. And remember, you deserve it.
My advice would be take it a day at a time. Sometimes you even need to break that down and take it an hour at a time or a minute at a time. Um, I would say, really deal with your emotions. So if that means that you cry every day for a year, which I did that, just so, everybody know that if that's you, you're not the only one. If you got to cry every day for a year, do that. If you have to go out and I don't know, listen to music and drive every day at some point, do that. I just think that most people need to know, like, self-care, that's probably one of the most essential things to do when you're leaving situations like that. Also, reforming your mind, affirmations, journaling, like was said on this panel. Those are some of the things that can help reform your mind. So I think that's also a part of the self-care process that needs to happen when leaving, or dealing with different types of domestic violence. So those are important to survivors that have just gotten out of, whatever, or just have to deal with certain types of abuse that they've been through.
My advice is to try everything and take care of yourself. During my experience, I was someone who looked at some things that were recommended to me and, oh, I'm not that kind of person. I can't do that. Whereas those things could have really helped me if I just had an open mind to it. And so I think that we can't find our best version of self-care unless we try it. And so just be open-minded to trying different forms of self-care, whether it be journaling, running, sleeping in, watching a movie, taking a bath. These are all different types of things. There's no one way to do it. And just in that process, just taking care of yourself, making sure that you are being kind to yourself, because you need that compassion and you deserve that compassion.
Hi, I'm Melissa, and I'm a survivor.
My name is Nayoché, and I'm a survivor.
Hi, I am Derricka, and I am a survivor.
I'm Nicole, and I'm a survivor.